Hey friends, it's Saturday, day 4 of the Veda Challenge. Vlog every day in April, for those of you who may have just kind of stumbled upon this. Saturdays are supposed to be a wild card day for me to kind of pick something that I want to talk about that doesn't really necessarily fit the mold in any of the other days. So the topic for this wild card is Emerald City Comicon. It just got over last week, and I thought I might talk about what it is, and give you my thoughts on how you could have an exciting, fun weekend if you decided you wanted to go to a comic book convention near you. Or if you ever wanted to come to Seattle for it, it's always at the end of March every year. So I volunteer at this convention, and so my experience is a little bit different than what would be a general convention goer's experience. I haven't been a regular attendee for conventions in quite a while. The conventions I go to, I typically volunteer for, and for me, that's what makes the show. Some people ask me, why do I do that? And the reason being, for me, my convention is made is if I can take someone else's convention when they're about to have a negative experience that's kind of ruins their convention experience, and turn it around and turn it into a positive. There's nothing quite like finding the child that is kind of heartbroken because there's something that they're not going to be able to do, and figuring out a way to make their day a little brighter. Sometimes it's moving mountains to get them to be able to do the thing that it is that they wanted to do. Sometimes it's just a small thing that you can say, oh, well, you weren't able to do that, but maybe you could do this. Or every once in a while I've been fortunate enough to get fun little trinkets, or buttons or pins or card decks or a comic book or some things. And while there's things that I wanted because as a fan it'd be cool to have, sometimes giving that item up to that person to make their convention is worth it way more than for me to have it in my collection. So that's a topic for another day. I actually have a podcast episode where I talk about convention volunteering. There's links down in the comments below if you would like to go find my podcast, the 15 Minutes Lame podcast, and listen to that. It was a nice hour-long conversation with 3 friends of mine who I volunteer at a different convention with. But it's a good time, and you should check that out. So let's go ahead and quickly talk about the couple of survival tips and couple of things that I would recommend as far as specifically a Comicon survival type thing that will hopefully make your experience pretty cool. So survival tip number 1, kind of have a meetup point if you're going to go with your friends, because you don't always want to see the same things, so that you can separate. And then, when you're ready to not do anything for a while and you want to meet back up with them, you can go to that rally point and then just kind of wait them out. And then it gives you a chance to rest if you need to, give you a chance to look through the things that you maybe have purchased, whether they're books or artwork or other fun things. And it also gives you guys a location to kind of meet up, just in case, sometimes cell phone batteries are sacrificed to the Comic-Con gods because everyone else is trying to use their phones at the same time, and that leaves for crummy cell phone reception. So you can't always get a text through, you can't always get a phone call through while you're on the floor. You may not, or if you go off the floor and you're away from everybody, you might be able to do that, but your friends might still be on the floor and they can't get your call or your text. So that's number one, I would say, is find a place where you guys agree that if you get separated and you can't get a hold of each other at specific times throughout the day, head towards there and then maybe meet up. That's number one. Number two, for me, I'm much more about seeing things that it's hard to find. Most conventions will have a place called Artist Alley. And what Artist Alley is you go, it's a row of tables basically where a bunch of comic book artists, or not necessarily comic books, or just artists in general, have set up shop to sell their wares basically. What's cool about Artist Alley is a lot of times, if you're walking through there, you'll find people who are independent. They're not necessarily artists for the big comic book companies, Marvel and DC and Dynamite and the like. But they have amazing, beautiful artwork, and a lot of times they'll have empty tables because people are out there looking for. When I mean empty tables, not that they don't have anything on their table, but that they don't have a lot of traffic. People just kind of walk by them and don't notice them. And you got to remember that these guys pay money so that they can basically have a presence at this particular show. And, you know, a lot of times they don't get a lot of people that swing by to see what they do, or they just kind of look and then they kind of move on. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily need to buy things from them all the time, although that's what they're there to do, is they're there to sell their merchandise. But what I am saying is take the opportunity to pause and take a couple minutes to look at a table where there isn't anybody else around except for the artist. Sometimes you get to find beautiful, beautiful gems. I'll give you an example. A couple years, quite a few years ago now, at Jet City Comicon here in Seattle, I was going to try to find Francis Manipal. Francis Manipal, fantastic artist. He's done amazing, amazing things. Most recently, when DC relaunched the New 52 series, he was the artist on The Flash, and with Brian Bucoletto, and now he is doing art for, I believe it's Batman Detective Chronicles, I do believe is the one that they ended up picking up. I'm not entirely sure on that. A beautiful artist. So people were lined up around the block to meet him, and he was basically, if you handed him a piece of paper or a sketchbook, he was doing a watercolor of different artists, of different things. And just off the top of his head, just to kind of do things, and it was very, very cool, and it's something that I wanted to pick up. However, I'm not really one to wait in lines. I don't like to wait in the lines if I don't have to. There's other things that you can do. Right next door was an artist named Agnes Garbowska. And Agnes didn't have anybody at her table at the time, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go check and see what she has at her table. And she does these amazing, what I would call chibi style, or cutesy style versions of your different superheroes. So she had, for example, the Justice League, or not the Justice League, it was Batman and Superman, and they were having a water balloon fight with the Joker and Lex Luthor, or the Avengers on a carousel with Iron Man pushing them around really fast with his jets, with his rocket boots, things like that. Very, very amazing stuff. So I would have never found her if I hadn't taken the time to go look at somebody who didn't have a lot of people at their booth. So so that's number 2. So number 3 will be go online, look at their schedule, figure out if there's panels that you want to see, and kind of create yourself a schedule so that you know what you want to do every day. And then that way it helps you figure out when you have things that you really want to see, and when you can run around and just pick out random things. It's a good way to make sure that you can try and get in as much of your convention experience as you can. But that is Veda for Saturday. Sunday tomorrow we'll be hitting a board game, and I haven't quite figured out what board game yet, but we'll get something in, and it'll be something from my collection that I think that you would like to play. So with that, I want to say thanks to Scott a lot for checking me out. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the comments below for any of your own convention tips that would help other people, or maybe something that maybe you think that I might be able to use to make my convention experience better. So yeah, we'll see you guys next time.